This happened a few weeks ago. I'm Jamie, 32, and I usually work as a graphic designer. I needed a break from my screens and the busy city life. Camping in the deep woods of Pine Ridge National Forest seemed perfect. It was just me and the towering pines. I set up my tent, and everything felt peaceful. I've never stopped thinking about that weekend. I remember the first night clearly. The woods were quiet, almost too quiet. I felt calm, wrapped in the comfort of nature. I lay on my sleeping bag, listening to the faint sounds around me. Then I heard it, a rustling, like something moving outside my tent. My heart raced. I sat up and listened. Maybe it was just a deer, I thought. I unzipped my tent slowly and stepped outside. There was nothing there, just a broken twig on the ground. I shrugged it off, convincing myself I was imagining things. I went back inside, but sleep didn't come easy. The next day I explored the area. The lake sparkled in the sunlight, and I took photos, trying to capture its beauty. It was exactly what I wanted. But that night, as I sat by the campfire, something felt off. Shadows danced among the trees, flickering in ways that didn't seem right. I tried to shake it off, but I couldn't. Later, I made s'mores to distract myself. When I turned around, my gear was arranged in a circle. I didn't remember doing that. I almost laughed it off, thinking I had just been careless. Still, a cold shiver ran down my spine. As the night grew dark, I heard something soft and distant. It was like someone calling my name. Jamie. My heart stopped. I looked around, but I was alone. The woods were silent again. Maybe it was nothing, I thought. Maybe it was the wind. I wanted to believe that, but unease settled in my stomach. Back in my tent, it felt like the shadows were closing in. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next morning I packed quickly. I just wanted to leave. As I zipped up my bag, I heard it again, a whisper of my name. Jamie. It was clearer this time. I turned around instinctively, but there was no one there. My hands shook as I hurriedly finished packing. I didn't understand what happened that weekend. Was it my imagination? The isolation? I still think about those encounters. They don't make sense. The woods that felt peaceful turned into a place of confusion and dread. I couldn't wait to leave, but a feeling lingered. Something had followed me out. Just as I reached my car, I heard that whisper again, right behind me. I turned slowly, my heart racing, but there was still nothing there. I drove away, but every time I close my eyes, I can still hear it. Jamie. It echoes in my mind, and it makes my skin crawl. I can't shake the feeling that the woods still hold secrets I was never meant to uncover. When I got back to the city, I thought I could leave everything behind. But the unease didn't just fade. Clung to me like a shadow. I tried to go back to my life, but I found myself distracted. My mind drifted to that trip and the whisper. Jamie. Always the same. One day, while scrolling through my phone, I stumbled upon an article about Pine Ridge National Forest. Caught my eye. I leaned in, hoping to learn more. The piece focused on its beauty and wilderness. Then it mentioned something unusual, local legends about the area. They spoke of lost souls and haunting winds, stories passed down for generations. My heart raced. As I read further, the accounts got darker. Campers had reported strange noises, voices calling out into the darkness. Some even claimed to see shapes darting between trees. Felt familiar. I shut my laptop, feeling a knot in my stomach. I wanted answers but didn't know how to find them. A few days later, I was back at work. I couldn't focus. My phone buzzed on my desk, and I recognized Jenna's name. She was a fellow designer and a good friend. I answered, half expecting small talk. Instead, she sounded uneasy. Jamie, have you heard about Pine Ridge? She asked. I felt a chill. Yeah, I've been there. Somebody went missing last week. A hiker. They say he vanished near the lake. She continued. My heart sank. There's an investigation going on. Couldn't shake my fear. What if I had missed something? What if those whispers were warnings? I felt the urge to go back. I needed closure. Maybe there was something in the woods that had been waiting for me to return. The next morning I grabbed my gear. I packed with purpose, fueled by both fear and determination. I hit the road, my heart racing with every mile closer to Pine Ridge. I arrived just as twilight settled, the sky painted in deep hues. It looked the same and yet so different under the fading light. As I set up my tent, the trees loomed taller, their branches twisting like bony fingers. I tried to convince myself it would be fine, just a camping trip. But when night fell, tension clung to the air. I sat by the fire, and the sounds of the woods felt alive, each rustle echoing in my mind. Then it happened. A breeze swept through the clearing, cold and strong. The flames flickered, and I heard it, a soft, familiar whisper. Jamie, chilled me to the bone. Heart pounding, I turned my head sharply, scanning the darkness. I was tempted to flee, but I couldn't. Something pulled me in. I had to understand. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped away from the firelight, my pulse quickening with each step deeper into the woods. As I moved, I felt the shadows shifting, watching. Then I heard it again, clearer this time, coming from somewhere ahead. That's when I saw it, a figure barely visible. It stood still, shrouded in darkness, just beyond the reach of my beam. My breath hitched. I felt the weight of all my fears surge inside me. Without thinking, I called out, "Hello!" The figure didn't move. The air thickened with tension, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't just drawn back here to confront the whispers. I was here to face whatever had been calling my name. The figure remained still, like a statue carved from shadow. I could hardly breathe. My mind raced with questions. Who or what was it? And why did it feel as though it knew me? "Who are you?" I asked, taking a tentative step forward. The beam of my flashlight flickered, plunging the woods into near darkness. My hands trembled, and I gripped the light tighter. Suddenly, the figure moved, taking a step toward me, and my heart dropped. "Jamie?" it whispered again. But this time, the voice echoed around me, as if it came from all directions. A chill coursed down my spine. I turned to run, but something held me in place, a force I couldn't see. Panic surged through me, and I shouted, "Stay away from me." The figure paused, almost as if confused. Then, just like that, it vanished. One moment it was there, and the next, nothing but darkness loomed in front of me. I felt the world around me shift, and the whispers intensified, swirling like a vortex of sound, wrapping around my mind. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a root. The firelight flickered weakly behind me, casting erratic shadows that danced across the trees. I needed to get back to safety, but I felt a strange compulsion to stay. There was something I had to uncover. I turned back toward the clearing, but every rustle seemed amplified. My instincts screamed at me to flee. Just as I was about to step away, I noticed something on the ground. It was a small, weathered trinket, a pendant on a frayed leather cord. I bent down, examined it closely. It was cold to the touch and engraved with an unfamiliar symbol. My mind flashed back to the article I had read, The Legends of Lost Souls. I felt a heaviness wash over me. Had this belonged to the missing hiker? I stuffed it into my pocket, determined to use it as a guide or a key to whatever I needed to face next. Then I heard the rustling again. This time, it was louder, more defined, coming from behind a tree not far away. My heart raced anew. I couldn't tell if I was ready for another encounter or if I should run. I took a cautious step toward the sound, my flashlight beam trembling. When I saw it, a second figure emerged, a woman this time. Her hair hung long and wild around her face, and she wore a tattered dress that blended into the shadows. I couldn't see her eyes, but her mouth moved, whispering words I couldn't understand. I felt a pull toward her, as if she had something important to say. "Jamie," she said, and my blood ran cold. Did she know my name too? Fear and curiosity battled within me. "Please," I managed to choke out. "What do you want?" The moment lingered, thick with uncertainty, and then everything went dark. The flashlight died, plunging me into absolute silence. I fumbled for my pack, trying to find another source of light, but panic clawed at my insides. I could feel the weight of the woods around me. The whispering shadows seemed to close in. In that darkness, I knew one thing. My night was far from over. I was trapped in a web of mysteries that demanded answers, no matter the cost. I stood frozen in the darkness, my senses heightened. I could hear every rustle of the leaves, every distant snap of a twig. The familiar sounds of the woods transformed into an eerie symphony of dread. My heart raced, each beat echoing in my ears. Just breathe, I whispered to myself, seeking comfort in the words. The weight of silence pressed down on me, thick and suffocating. My fingers traced the outline of the pendant in my pocket, grounding me in reality. It felt like a lifeline, a secret waiting to be discovered. I needed light. With a steadying breath, I fished out my spare flashlight, my breath hitching in my throat as I twisted the cap, praying it still had battery. A faint beam emerged, cutting through the dark. It almost felt like a wall of protection, pushing back the shadows. I aimed it toward the clearing where I had seen the woman. Nothing was there. Only the shadows danced around me, creating shapes that loomed larger than life. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. No answer, just the rustle of wind through trees. But then, I noticed movement. To my right, between two trees, a flicker of white shifted like smoke. My pulse quickened, and I followed it, curiosity clawing at my gut. I stepped forward cautiously, my flashlight beam bouncing over the forest floor. The leaves crunched beneath my feet, breaking the stillness. As I approached, the flickering grew brighter, clearer. It was a small, glowing orb hovering just off the ground. What the hell, I breathed, transfixed. It was mesmerizing, drawing me closer with an inviting warmth that contradicted the cold fear settling in my bones. Suddenly, the flickering intensified, and then the orb exploded into a shower of lights that twinkled like stars, filling the air with shimmering particles. I stumbled back, shielding my eyes. The lights twisted around me, wrapping me in a luminescent embrace, and a feeling of longing washed over me. "Jamie," a voice echoed again. Softer this time, but it was undeniably her voice. I looked around frantically, trying to pinpoint where it was coming from. "Who are you?" I shouted into the void. The lights began to fade, pulsing in and out like a heartbeat. They drew back towards the same spot in the woods, gathering in a small cluster before vanishing completely, leaving me in darkness once more. Terror flooded my veins. I was alone again. I turned to run back toward the campsite, but that strange sensation, the invisible force, held me in place. I felt a presence behind me, and turning slowly, I shined the flashlight toward the direction. There stood the woman again, even closer than before. She hadn't moved in all the chaos, but now she appeared clearer, like an ethereal painting come to life. Her lips parted, and I could see the desperate pleading in her expression. I took a step back, panic overwhelming reason. "Stay away," I yelled, scrambling backward, but she simply tilted her head, as if in sorrow. Just as I felt the weight of despair begin to settle in, the ground beneath my feet trembled, and the shadows stretched long and thick around me. A deep rumble filled the air, and I was caught between the pulse of light and the oppressive darkness. I needed to get away. I couldn't afford to hesitate. Fleeing toward the campsite, the memories of the last few moments crashed over me. The pendant, the whispers, the lights. Something was awakening within the woods, something that wanted to make itself known, whether I was ready or not. As I bolted through the trees, a scream erupted into the night, not mine, but echoing all around. I felt my heart pounding, uncertain of what I would find next, desperate for answers that could shatter everything I believed. I ran, my flashlight beam slicing through the darkness, but the underbrush snagged at my legs. Every twist and turn felt like I was diving deeper into a maze with no exit. The distant screams echoed, their source lost in the suffocating shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was chasing me, something that thrived in the dark. "Just focus on getting to the others," I murmured, trying to convince myself that the safety of the campsite awaited. But the woods seemed to conspire against me. Branches reached out like skeletal hands, and the air was thick with tension. I stumbled into a clearing, breathless, and illuminated the area. Nothing but trees surrounded me, their silhouettes looming like ancient guardians. I took a moment to gather myself, panting heavily, my mind racing. But there was no time to linger. I needed to keep moving. My flashlight flickered, and fear clawed at my throat. "Please, not now," I begged, thumping it against my palm. The light steadied, pouring a weak glow over the ground. Just as I turned to leave, something shiny caught my eye amid the leaves. I crouched down and picked up a small trinket. It was an old locket, tarnished and cold in my palm. My heartbeat quickened. Could this be hers? I thought, recalling the woman's desperate gaze. I pried it open, but the inside was empty. My fingers trembled, not just from fear but with a nagging sense of familiarity. I had seen something like this before in an old photo, maybe? The thought was shattered by another blood-curdling scream piercing through the night. I dropped the locket and bolted, my mind racing. Thoughts of Jamie, the woman, and that strange glowing orb swirled. What did it all mean? Why did I feel this pull towards the unknown? As I resumed my run, the landscape twisted around me, disorienting me. Each heartbeat thundered in my ears as shadows flickered at the edges of my vision. A chill ran down my spine. Then I stumbled into a second clearing. This one was different, the trees curving away as if to reveal a forgotten well at its center. I approached cautiously, compelled but terrified. The well brimmed with darkness, an abyss that seemed deeper than any natural pit. "What is this place?" I whispered, but the answer came in the form of another wail, this one familiar. It was Jamie. It echoed from the well as if it were calling from the depths below. My legs felt like lead, and fear gripped me. I had to find her. I had to know if she was in there. I leaned over the edge, shining my flashlight into the void. It was pitch black. Then, from the depths, a flicker of light much like the orb I had seen earlier. It danced and twisted, beckoning me closer. "Jamie!" I shouted, desperation surging through me. "Help me!" Her voice, clear but strained, came back, chilling me to the bone. As I leaned further, my foot slipped, and I grabbed the edge in a panic. "Hold on. I'm coming," I cried, but chaos erupted around me. The ground trembled, and a powerful wind whipped through, carrying far-off whispers. I felt unseen hands pull at me, tugging me dangerously close to the edge. I gasped, struggling to pull myself back, and just as I thought I'd fall, something yanked me away forcefully, violently. I stumbled back, panting, the shadows shifting ominously around me. Everything was spiraling out of control. I needed to get back to the campsite. I had to warn the others, but with every step, that locket and Jamie's voice lingered in my mind, blending with the whispers of the woods. This was bigger than I ever imagined, and I had no idea how deep it would go. That S when I heard it, a faint giggle, soft yet piercing, reverberating off the trees. It wasn't human. It was something otherworldly. I turned my head toward the sound, dread pooling in my stomach. The night was ready to unveil more than I could ever handle. The giggle echoed again, making the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It was close, too close. I spun around, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly, revealing nothing but darkness and trees. I was alone, at least that's what I wanted to believe. Get it together, I told myself. I took a deep breath, trying to silence the panic rising in my throat. But the woods had become an unpredictable maze, and my mind raced with thoughts of Jamie. Couldn't he leave her? "Where are you?" I called out, fear threading into my voice. No answer came, just the chilling silence of the night. Then more laughter. It sounded like children playing, a sound that felt wrong in this sinister setting. They shouldn't be here. I had to keep moving. I forced my legs into action, stepping lightly over the roots that snaked out of the ground. As I ventured into the shadows, I noticed an unsettling glow seeping through the trees, green and vibrant against the pitch black. It flickered like the light from the orb I had seen earlier. My heart raced. What was happening? I followed the glow, hoping it would lead me somewhere familiar. As I drew closer, the brilliance increased, revealing a circle of ghostly figures gathered around something on the ground. My breath hitched. Were they real? Or was I losing my mind? I crept closer, staying behind a thick trunk. Their faces blurred, but the energy was palpable. They moved in unison, weaving an eerie dance, their laughter chiming like broken bells. I squinted, trying to discern what they surrounded. In the center lay another locket, identical to the one I had found earlier. The moment my eyes fell on it, the laughter stopped. The figures turned, their gazes locking onto me. A chill gripped my spine. "What do you want?" I called, my voice shaky. They didn't respond, but I felt it, a pull, a connection. Then one figure stepped forward, its features sharpening in the glow. It was a girl, young, with hollow eyes that seemed to look right through me. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered, her voice ghostly yet eerily calm. "Where's Jamie?" I demanded, heart pounding. "Is she with you?" The girl pointed to the locket, and as I moved to reach for it, something yanked me back. My flashlight flickered again, casting shadows that twisted around me like tendrils. With horror, I realized the figures were moving closer, their expressions shifting to something menacing. I turned to run, adrenaline pushing me faster, but they were right behind me, their laughter rising again, this time malicious. I burst through the clearing, the glow behind me fading into the dark, but I could feel the weight of their stares on my back. I ran with everything I had, fueled by panic. I didn't stop until I found myself in another clearing, breathless and trembling. The whispering trees loomed, but this time I didn't care. I was desperate. I had to find my friends. When I noticed it, something shiny caught my eye, lying half buried in the dirt. Another trinket? I leaned down, my chest tight. It was a key, cold and heavy in my palm, but it was unlike anything I had ever seen. The moment I touched it, visions flooded my mind. A flash of Jamie smiling, then the well, then darkness. Just as quickly, everything went quiet. The weight of the key felt like a warning. I dropped it instinctively. No more. Then I heard it again, the giggling, now closer, echoing through the woods. Fear surged, pushing me to action. I had to find Jamie, or whatever this night had in store would consume me whole. But as I turned to run, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. Someone or something was standing at the edge of the trees, watching. I froze, heart racing, as the laughter crescendoed, a mocking melody that threatened to drive me mad. I held my breath, straining to see who or what was out there. The figure stood still, cloaked in shadows, but I could make out the silhouette. It was a child, small with disheveled hair, and they appeared to be staring right at me. My legs felt heavy as my instincts screamed for me to run. "Jamie?" I whispered, hoping against hope that it was her. But the figure didn't respond. Instead, it tilted its head, a slow, deliberate motion that sent chills down my spine. Then, abruptly, it darted back into the trees, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. I blinked, heart pounding in my ears. Should I follow? Could be a trap. I turned the other way, attempting to drown out the fear tightening around my chest. I couldn't succumb to these shadows. I needed to focus on finding Jamie. Moving deeper into the woods, I stumbled on what felt like hours of wandering. As I scanned the trees, I felt the weight of being watched return, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. The laughter had faded into whispers, but they still echoed in my mind like a haunting melody. I tried to concentrate on my breath, but another noise broke through, soft and shuffling, like tiny feet skimming the forest floor. That's when I saw it. A flash of light at my foot. I nearly stepped on it. It was another object, this time a bracelet, made of twisted vines and small pearls. I picked it up, recognizing its oddly familiar texture. Felt wrong in my hands. In that moment, I was hit with another wave of visions. I saw Jamie, desperately trying to reach for me, her face twisted in fear. Then I saw the woods again, but everything was darker, more chaotic. I gasped, releasing the bracelet as if it burned. "What is happening?" I gasped, my throat thick. Turning to leave, I heard the giggle again, piercing the quiet like a knife. I dropped lower, trying to blend with the underbrush. Whoever or whatever was out there was getting closer. I could see shadows flitting between the trees now, darting in and out, almost like they were playing tag with each other. The laughter was infectious yet felt like a mocking taunt. It stirred something dark within me. I had to find Jamie. I couldn't let them take me too. Steeling myself, I moved toward a larger clearing that opened up before me. The moonlight spilled across the ground, illuminating the space and washing away some of my fears. I stood still for a moment, scanning for any signs of Jamie or an escape route. But instead, my eyes landed on a sight that made my stomach drop. There, in the center of the clearing, lay an old, crumbling fountain. Water had long dried up, but the carvings around its edges seemed alive with energy, glowing faintly. I approached cautiously, every instinct warning me against it. Something about the fountain felt inviting, tempting me to look deeper. As I bent down, I noticed something glimmering at the bottom. Was that the locket? Just as I reached in, the figures reappeared behind me, their laughter morphing into a chorus of whispers, urging me forward. "Join us," they called, their voices mixing with the sound of rushing water that didn't exist anymore. I jerked back, heart racing, and turned to run. But as I did, I felt icy fingers grip my arm, pulling me back into the grasp of the trees. Everything in me screamed for escape, but as I thrashed, darkness closed around me. And then, everything went quiet. The trees were still. The laughter faded. I was alone, but I could feel their presence looming close, waiting for me to make my next move. The silence was heavy, pressing against my ears. I stood motionless, trying to catch my breath. The chill in the air was palpable. I glanced around, half expecting the figures to reappear, but there was nothing. Only the dark shadows of trees looming overhead. I took a cautious step forward, the underbrush crackling softly underfoot. My mind raced, replaying every moment. What had just happened? I felt the rattling grip of fear settling deep in my gut. I wanted to call out for Jamie, but it felt futile. Was she even nearby or lost forever to these malevolent woods? Suddenly, a rustling sound broke through the stillness. My heart jumped as I whipped around, but it was just a small animal, a rabbit, darting away. Relief washed over me, but I knew I couldn't linger too long. I needed to explore the clearing more, even if just to gather my bearings. I approached the fountain again, the carvings now seeming to pulse in the moonlight. The closer I got, the more I noticed the details, faces twisted in expressions of agony and joy, intertwined in the vines. Felt wrong. I could hear the whispers beginning to swell again, beckoning me closer, their grip just as strong as the icy fingers that had held me moments ago. "What do you want?" I whispered, the words escaping before I could think better of them. There was a brief pause, and then I heard Jamie's voice, soft, small, but clear. "Help me." My stomach dropped. "Jamie?" I called out, panic flooding my veins. The laughter erupted once more, echoing around me, but it was no longer friendly. It felt predatory, like they were reveling in my despair. I squinted into the darkness, trying to discern where her voice had come from. "Where are you?" The shadows thickened, creeping along the edges of the clearing. I felt a strong pull to the fountain again, as if it were drawing me in. I couldn't take my eyes off that glimmer at the bottom. In a flash of impulse, I kneeled by the fountain, reaching down into the cold, empty basin. The moment my fingers brushed against the hard surface, a surge of memories flooded my mind. Vivid images of Jamie and I playing in the woods as children, our laughter chasing the quiet away. But then those memories twisted, showing Jamie trapped and terrified, eyes wide and pleading. "Stop," I gasped, pulling my hand back. The whispers screamed in fury, the sound blending with the booming silence of the forest. I stumbled back, overwhelming panic rising. Then, without warning, the moonlight flickered, and shadows danced wildly around me. Out of the corners of my eyes, I saw them, figures emerging again. Not just children, but adults too, their faces grotesquely distorted. They stepped closer, their laughter rising in volume. With nowhere to go, I turned and bolted back into the depths of the woods, branches clawing at my arms. I had to get away from the clearing, away from whatever malevolence that fountain harbored. The laughter followed me, growing louder, taunting me as I ran blind through the trees. Then, I caught a glimpse of something white, a piece of clothing, caught in the branches against a distant tree. My heart raced. Jamie? I fought against my fear, redirecting my steps toward it. But just as I reached out to grab it, the laughter stopped. In its place came a single voice. You shouldn't have come here. The words hung in the air, heavy with warning, then faded into silence, leaving me alone in the dark once more. I stood paralyzed for a moment, the weight of those words pressing down on me. My breath quickened, and a new wave of fear washed over me. The shadows around the tree cast long, twisted shapes, making the forest feel alive. I glanced back toward the clearing, the fountain a distant nightmare. I couldn't go back there. It was a trap. I took a hesitant step toward the white fabric that caught my eye. It wasn't just any piece of clothing. My heart sank as I recognized it as Jamie's shirt. I yanked it free from the branches, half hopeful it would somehow lead me to her. But there was no answer, only the stillness of the forest mocking my attempts to reconnect with her. Clutching the fabric tightly, I turned back into the woods, determined to press deeper until I could find Jamie. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground beneath me was shifting, trying to pull me down into the earth. I could hear the distant echo of laughter again, like a twisted reminder of my past. That laughter had been innocent once, a carefree sound of joy. Now it twisted my insides. Suddenly, I spotted a glow through the trees. It flickered like a dying ember, but it called to me. I pushed forward, moving closer until I saw it a small campfire, just off the path. Relief washed over me, and then suspicion crept in. Who would be here at this hour? I had felt completely alone before, but that light felt both welcoming and dangerous. As I approached, I noticed the figures seated around the fire. They were silent, their faces obscured by shadows, but I could sense their eyes on me. The hairs on my neck stood up. Hello? I called, hoping for a connection, desperate for help. One of the figures turned slightly, and I caught a glimpse of a gaunt face, lips curled into a smile that didn't touch their eyes. You found us, the figure said softly, the words lingering in the air like a fog. The others turned toward me, their movements slow and deliberate, as if our encounter had been preordained. Have you seen my friend? A girl named Jamie? I asked, fighting the urge to run. She's lost. The figure's smile widened, and in that moment, moonlight slipped between the branches, illuminating their faces. They were not just gaunt. They were emaciated, skin stretched too tight over bone. I stumbled back, panic clawing at my throat. She's always been here, another figure said, their voice low and melodic, but laced with something sinister. She belongs to the woods now. No, I shouted, my heart racing. I want to leave her. I turned and raced back into the darkness, tearing through the underbrush. Behind me, the laughter erupted again, echoing through the trees and urging me to stop, to listen. But I couldn't allow myself to pause, so I ran, my breath ragged. I needed to find Jamie and get out of this cursed place. Then everything went dark. The last light vanished, swallowed by the thick canopy above. I was plunged into an absolute darkness, the laughter now replaced by a heavy silence. Confused and terrified, I felt my way through the void. The fabric of Jamie's shirt slipped from my fingers as I stumbled, and in that moment, hope began to fade. Then I felt a cold hand suddenly gripping my arm, and the breath caught in my throat. Stay with us, a voice whispered, chilling me to the bone. Forever. I froze. In that moment, everything condensed into a suffocating silence. The grip on my arm tightening as shadows twisted around me. Their whispers now a haunting chant. Forever. My heart raced, but instinct kicked in. With a fierce determination, I jerked my arm away, breaking free from the hold. I turned and tore through the darkness, my senses heightened as I ran. I couldn't think of anything but escape. Where was the path? Where was I even going? I stumbled over roots and rocks, my flashlight flickering with only the barest glow. The laughter echoed once more, alive with insidious glee, but I kept moving, ignoring the weight of fear trying to drag me down. Just when I thought I couldn't run any longer, I broke through the brush into another clearing. The moonlight spilled over me, illuminating a well at its center. Panic surged. I could hear Jamie's whispers from the depths, tinged with urgency. "Help me, Jamie. Hold on," I called out, my voice cracking with desperation. But the whispers surged, growing louder, as if something palpable was rising from the ground. I approached the well, my heart pounding in my chest. If she was down there, I had to choose step forward and face the darkness or back away and let her disappear forever. "Jamie!" I shouted, leaning closer. The darkness in the well warped and shifted, revealing glimmers of a once soft light, now dulled. "Please, tell me what to do. Join us," the shadows sang, their laugh echoing all around. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath my feet. Felt like a warning, a moment of reckoning. Without thinking, I grabbed the old trinket I had found earlier. The pendant was heavy in my pocket. I pulled it out and held it above the well, praying it would somehow guide me to her. "If you want her, then you will take me too," I screamed at the shadows. There was an agonizing pause, thick with tension. To my utter shock, the whispers swelled, swirling like a gust of wind. I felt a force pulling on my chest, a connection to something otherworldly. In that instant, the figures appeared again, their faces twisting as they reached out with bone-chilling grins. They chanted louder, moving closer, as if the trinket had activated something buried deep within them. "You shouldn't have come back," one figure declared, its voice a blend of contempt and sorrow. "I don't care," I shouted back, clenching my fists. "I want to leave her behind. I refuse." Then, as if responding to my defiance, the wind howled through the clearing. Filled with newfound courage, I leaned closer to the well, ready to plunge into the darkness if that meant saving Jamie. "I believe in what's good, what's real," I shouted defiantly. "You can't have us." The air crackled, and for a moment, I felt the world shift. The cold grip that had been surrounding me released as Jamie's voice pierced through once more, a ray of clarity amid the chaos. "Jamie, reach for me. I'm coming," I yelled, before taking a deep breath and letting go of every ounce of fear. The shadows shifted, a barrier breaking, and a soft light began to illuminate the darkness of the well. It flickered but held strong. I felt a surge of warmth, suddenly infused with a sense of purpose, and I grabbed the edge of the well, shouting, "Jamie," as I leaned over. Then came a blinding flash of light. Instinctively, I shielded my eyes. I heard a grunt, a cry, and suddenly I felt something warm and real grabbing my hand tightly. "Gotcha!" It was Jamie, alive, radiant, and standing right beside me as the forest erupted into luminous echoes of laughter. Joyous this time. The figures seemed to dissipate, fading into the trees, their presence no longer haunting. The warmth enveloped us as the laughing shadows withdrew. I felt dizzy, the weight of the woods lifting. We stood together, breathless as the moon bathed us in silver light. Jamie's expression was a blend of relief and disbelief. "What just happened?" she gasped, looking around as if we had both been released from a nightmare. "I don't know, but we need to go. Now," I said urgently, pulling her along. We raced back through the trees, the path before us somehow clearer, the oppressive darkness lifting with every step. As we reached the edge of the forest, my heart began to ease. Glancing back, the woods stood still. The laughter had faded, the shadows receding like a vanishing tide. I still felt an eerie unease settle in my chest, an unshakable knowledge that whatever had transpired was far from over. I glanced down at the pendant in my hand, now gleaming without any trace of shadows. It was only then that I registered the faint yet lingering giggles echoing behind us, soft as whispers on the wind. "Well," Jamie said, breaking the silence, "that was something." "I'm never coming back here," I replied, my heart still racing. But deep down, I knew I'd always carry the weight of the woods with me, a piece of darkness tethered to my thoughts. As we drove away, I stared at the looming trees through the rearview mirror, each shadow a reminder of the secrets they held, secrets that would never truly be behind us. I turned to Jamie, but she stared out the window, her gaze distant, as if the woods still had some hold on her too. And as we left, I heard it again, the faint call of a name, sweet but haunting. Jamie. The echo danced across my mind, a reminder of the mysteries we had brushed against, ones that would linger forever, unanswered.